Hello and namaste everyone. This is Karunya Richard Support Executive at Institute of Inspiring Innovation. Thank you for joining us on Inspiring Innovators, a show where we showcase innovative people, their innovations and the impact it's creating. Here we have our inspiring innovator, Srinivas Varadarajan, the founder and CEO of Vigyan Labs. Srinivas is an innovator, entrepreneur. His passion for nature, environment, and sustainability has driven him to innovate on energy management. He is the inventor of intelligent power management suite of software, which has enabled Fortune 500 companies to save over a terawatt hours of energy till date. He has multiple patents in energy management. I would like to inform you that if you have any questions during the talk show, request you to type them into the chat box. We'll bring them up in the end. Now, let me invite Naveen Lakur, Chief Innovation Coach at Institute of Inspiring Innovation, to the spotlight to host.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Karunya, for the invite and the welcome. I'm so excited again to have Srinivas Varadarajan on an interaction with us. Look forward to bring out many interesting concepts, and he's a deep thinker, great technologist. And his work inspires everyone. And I don't know what inspired him to be getting into specialty and specialization in energy management. Let's move the spotlight to Srinivas Varadarajan, who has got many patents, and his passion and commitment towards energy management and the secret behind that. Over to you, Srinivas Varadarajan. What inspired you to be innovating in the space of energy management?
Yeah, I think, see, right from my childhood, always been about nature and environment and passion. As a country, right, we grew up with power cuts always. We always had power cuts. Saving power was always in our genes, I feel, in the country. That's always in the background. We always used to save power at home, everywhere, because we had lack of access to power in the country. We always had power shortages, blackouts. But somewhere down the line, I think when we just started working on the Aadhaar, I think it triggered that inherent passion inside me that that we need to do something more, take it more seriously, and take it as a mainstream business. So when we were designing the Aadhaar infrastructure, we just found out that the amount of energy the IT infrastructure takes is humongous. There are about 7 billion computers, hundreds of millions of servers and data centers coming around the world. And we realize that IT infrastructure itself consumes 1% of the global energy, and it's growing at a humongous pace. And then it made us relook at what are we doing in terms of technology? Can't we do something to look at the energy consumption and where is the energy getting wasted? Because it's easy to save wasted energy than creating new additional energy, right? So, and even today, look at the globe. Also, there is solar and wind power. 60 to 70% of energy comes from coal. Again, which is not a clean energy. So while the clean energy initiatives are going on, the current infrastructure which provides you energy is predominantly coal, somewhat to extent nuclear power, and solar and wind are slowly coming up. But till we have a major portion of the energy coming from renewable sources, we need to do something to cut down the CO2 emissions in countries like India and many parts of the world, where, for example, to generate 1 kilowatt hour of energy, we consume 95 liters of water, and we generate 1 kg of CO2 emissions, which is pretty huge. Which I myself figured out, as we in the journey, and started looking at what can we do to cut down this, and where can we cut down, how we easily can do it, and what are the ways and means of doing it. So these are the things actually I would say made us relook at the whole technology and come up new ideas, and we continue to come up with new ideas as we dig deeper and deeper. We find more and more problems to solve. Right? Not that the journey is over. I would say the journey has just begun.
Yeah, very true. Interestingly, the point that you brought out in how we grew up, electricity and the power is a very precious thing in a country like India, and so much of power cuts which has been there. So when you have it, those who don't have it know the value of it, right? Those who have it, we don't many times care about it. And here is a classic scenario of a penny saved is a penny earned. I know you developed some of these software application which could help in power management, and Government of America recognized this as an initiative which could help conserve power as much as they can generate as much power required, but they recognized the value of conserving it and incentivizing. Can you talk about that innovation and how did it impact and the journey on how a government like American government could recognize it?
So basically, if you look at the IT infrastructure, especially the computers, the desktops, servers, and the equipment, so they are as technology progresses, you are getting more and more powerful devices, right? A high powerful smartphone, powerful desktop, powerful servers. I don't think all of us use the full compute capacity at all times. Rarely we do use the compute capacity to the full extent. Although, so we just observed that nearly 50% of the energy used in a computing device is wasted. When the research by Climate Saver shows that 50% of the energy in a device is wasted. Even when you're using a device is idle. And then we said, if you can save part of the energy which is getting wasted, that should be a big boon. So our just innovation began towards looking at the wasted energy in the computing devices and how we could use the artificial intelligence, AI and ML to figure out the wasted energy and how could we save the energy on all these devices. If you look at, there are 7 billion computers, and there are hundreds of millions of servers around the world. So we could save 20 to 30% of the energy on these devices, the wasted energy. So it's a big saving, and it contributes towards sustainability and reducing the energy generation, the CO2 emissions, and so on. So I started working on this, understanding this problem. We innovated, we created a suite of products. We started the desktops, laptops, and over time we moved to servers, and we had done a lot more innovation. So the EPA basically in America is the nodal agency which handles out rebates to various entities or companies which adopt energy saving initiatives. So EPA does not handle the subsidies directly, but EPA works with many power distributors, the last mile distributors, to offer incentives. So I think a couple of years back, I think when we approached the EPA, they connected us with a couple of energy distributors in the different regions in Chicago, California, New York, many areas. So we worked with them. They looked out for technology and innovation and came up with some subsidy programs for customers who adopt energy saving initiatives. And that's how we got, here's the picture in the US region.
Wonderful. I think it's a great impact, right? And a true story of a penny saved is a penny earned. And you got several awards and recognition during that time for being very innovative, including TIE in the Bay Area, recognized for the innovation that you had. So talk to us about that innovation and the award and what was recognized.
I think the innovation was about, using a piece of software, using complex algorithms like artificial intelligence and machine learning to identify the energy wasted in a computing device and to be able to measure. One is about one of the biggest challenges as we went into the journey of saving energy was to measure energy consumption, because in a small computing device or a big computing device, it's very hard to put a physical meter and measure. So as we went along the journey, we invented a software energy meter which actually measures the energy consumption of the device. Because if you have to say, we know where you are today, you need to know where you are. You should be able to measure the consumption, and then only you can talk about the savings. So as we started building this technology, we had to invent a software energy meter which measures energy. Then you look at the savings. It's easily quantifiable energy savings, right? So that we have got the award for creating a piece of software which can measure analyze savings and quantify savings and show it to the enterprise. And yes, this is the amount of energy consumed. This actually energy saved and the associated benefits like how much CO2 emissions you actually brought it down, how much money saved. You could show all these benefits in a tangibly, intangible. We made the intangible benefit tangible and made it visible to the customer.
Oh, fantastic. Converting an intangible into a tangible one is an art also, along with the science. And I know you've done that well. Even as inventors, typically one of the challenge inventors have is they can think, they can create something, but how do you present it? How do you make it a business case? I remember one occasion where you were invited for a presentation with the chairman of a large bank in India. And you were allotted some time slot, and I'm sure you were prepared for that and wanting to present. But it so happened after the program, they did mention not enough time is there available for a meeting. However, one quick introduction could happen, and that would be en route from the stage to the car. And you had to do an elevator pitch in a way. It's actually not in an elevator, but only that much time available before they get into the car. And I remember that pitch of yours. As an inventor, I would have thought, you would do a technical specification of what your solution is and all that. But you did a fantastic pitch of saying, the only thing that you said was, my name is Srinivas Vardarajan. I am the CEO of Vigyan Labs, and I can help your bank save 34 crores of rupees every month. And here is my card. That's it. So that was a fantastic business pitch on savings that the bank could. And needless, the chairman registered that number and ensured her team called you, and then you could go and showcase your solution. And I think you also went ahead and implemented the solution. That was brilliant. I'm sure if you had to go and do that presentation, you would have done a lot of research. So how do you approach? What is research for you? And here, how do you bring the business angle to the technology enablement and the power of technology?
Yeah, I think see, when you're into cost savings and initiatives, you need to understand the customer's business. Okay, so many of these, and from our perspective, I need to understand what are the IT assets do they have, how many IT assets do they have, and that's I think most of the time is public information. If you do a little bit of research, you'll get a reasonable amount of information. Because today everything is digital. There are X number of employees, you have at least X number of computing devices in the enterprise, and some percentage of servers also, right? We know the math behind that. So we just did the research on the company, on the bank, and found out how many employees they have, how many branches they have, and we could fairly calculate, how much of money they were spending on energy consumption, and what is the potential energy we could save, and then just mention that because we had about a minute or so, not more than a minute, right?
Yes.
Less than a minute of time to tell the business level. If you look at the person who is there at the chairman level, I don't think you have time to look at everything. They are probably looking at the bottom line and the top line for the next year, and you need to tell them what makes them remember most, right? So a 30 crore in their improvement in bottom line is a big number for them. So I just had to think and say, what will she remember? I'm sure if I talk to a technologist or a CTO, he'll remember the patent, but as a chairman, will probably be more concerned about the bottom line, companies' growth and their image, right? So I just quickly thought about what she would say. It occurred to my mind that we need to talk about the bottom line. And of course, subsequently, there's a sustainability impact. Just within 30 seconds, you could only say that, I am so-and-so, I could save 30 crores plus for you. That's all I could say, right? I think everywhere in a business context, we need to look at the person, the decision maker, and what's the number one thing in the decision maker's mind, his or her mind, and what will make them remember what you say. And they just need to tell that.
Fantastic. inventors and people who are in the space of innovation it can become inspiring innovator as the person who you are is because of that ability to do research and ability to connect those dots and present it in a way as what is important to the customer, right? Knowing your customer is so important in the journey of innovation. So which you've done a great job, and it's a fantastic learning for everyone. So you had one opportunity as some of the selected members were invited to interact with our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, and he was very keen to know from each one of them as to what is that they have innovated. And when you got a chance, so you've been involved in so many innovations, right? And you're a serial innovator. Which one did you present, and how did you present?
I think one of the innovations already, if you look at our innovation suite of products, actually our innovation primarily was in the data center. Actually, the first patent we got for the company developed data center. But in the implementation wise, we choose the desktop because it was the easy one. We could get it to market very, very quickly because easy to market. Data center takes a long time. So what we presented about is a data center as a growing business in the country, right? As a country, we are actually hopefully inadequate data centers, and data centers are starting to boom. And there was no focus on looking at energy efficiency of data centers because a small data center can overwhelm actually a power plant. Just look at in Bangalore, when you just see there are a lot of large banks are there. There's a in your neighborhood. There's a small building which can guzzle up the whole power of that whole locality, right? Just take a Jayanagar. There are a small building there in Jayanagar which is a mid-sized bank and data center. I think the amount of energy consumed by this bank data center could power Jayanagar, JP Nagar, adjacent areas, right? So I just talked about it, how we need to look at the data center efficiency as an important agenda. As a country, we need to create more digital infrastructure. We need to look at making this infrastructure efficient and also resilient.
Absolutely. In this journey, I know there is to be some inspiration behind which got you to move in this direction and wanting to create an impact in this area. What would be that inspiration which has got you inspired and doing what you are doing now?
I think there are, as I said, many things. As I said earlier, I always had a passion for nature and environment. I always grew up to do something, planting trees, taking care of nature and people around us, right? And as I said, Aadhaar was the trigger point where it triggered us, made us think how big is the impact. While we were trying to create IT infrastructure, I think we never bothered about the environmental impact of the technology. We just continue to do. As I started looking deeper into the environmental impact of technology, we found that we are creating a everlasting damage to the environment. Because if you look at history, our fathers and forefathers gave us an environment which was, I think, I would say, clean air, clean water, and but as we see so much of pollution in the world, right? And we are seeing pollution and a lot of species disappearing, forests disappearing, because we have just consumed more resources than what the nature itself can sustain. So, and if you look at the climate action, I think there's already an agreement among nations to reduce the global warming, the global temperature increase by at least 1.5 degrees centigrade. The Paris Agreement, I think we have actually sort of breached today, right? We have crossed the threshold. I think unless we bring the global warming, the temperatures at least by 2 degrees centigrade in next decade, I think the future of mankind itself is questionable. I think what nature does is it finds some species are not good enough to survive, it will just eliminate them, right? I don't think nature is not compassionate. It treats every creature fairly and squarely. Some species is not fit to survive, it will just eliminate it. I think our survival of the mankind is at stake today, unless we take some drastic action, to bring back, bring back our ways and means of doing things into a more sustainable way of doing things.
Oh yeah. Now it can't be a better time than this for us to understand and appreciate how nature treats. If we don't treat nature well, right? With the COVID as in the backdrop and currently in the pandemic period, and we also, there is a beautiful saying that says anything that does not contribute will get eliminated, right? And I think it has to be said that anything which does not contribute meaningfully gets eliminated.
Yes.
And COVID has taught us these lessons. At the same time, COVID has also been a catalyst for innovation, and it has created a platform for organizations and innovators to reinvent themselves. So, how have you taken the opportunity of COVID being this catalyst? And what are those few things that you've reinvented? And has it helped you? And how is it helping others?
Yeah. So COVID, taught us many new things, right? I think all of a sudden, all of a sudden, customers who used to run large offices and buildings, offices got shut down, buildings got shut down. People started going back to work. They're working from home. So working from home became a norm. And then we do need to have a business impact because we were saving energy in the enterprise, in the buildings and offices. Suddenly, offices are not there. What do you do, right? And of course, people started working from home. And then we need to relook at the challenges people started facing at home. So we did speak to a lot of customers. There were many, actually during the acute lockdown period, there were many challenges. So people had laptops, and of course the home was not itself, every home was not equipped with enough power supply, UPS and other IT infrastructure to be able to work from a home for long hours and many days together, not many weeks or months together. So we had to reinvent our product to make sure, it serves the current need of the customers. A couple of examples I can take is what we did was, many of the customers said, my employees are using laptops. There's already power cuts happening. We need to make the laptops battery last longer. And if something goes bad, I can't send in person all the way home to fix that because people have gone back to the small towns, villages to work. So how do you ensure that that people can work remotely on the laptops? And so we had to add new features to our products to ensure that a laptop battery lasts longer. You can figure out if any hardware fails. So we added this remote diagnostics and self-healing feature so that IT doesn't have to go all the way to your homes. It can sit remotely and troubleshoot. Because if a laptop or a desktop fails, then the person is unable to work. Right? So we have to build in new features to the product, diagnostics, self-healing, patch management. Because how do you patch? There are security threats. People are working from home. How do you ensure your laptop works in a secure environment? Home setup was not as secure as a corporate, right? But you have to make with what you have. You don't have a choice. So we have to reinvent new tools which we bundle with the existing piece of software, so the clients can push it to their end users, desktops, laptop, to make their home environment more secure, more reliable, push patches there, remotely diagnose and troubleshoot, and also ensure that the laptop battery lasts longer. And along with this thing, I think we had to invent a lot more new things. I think the pace of innovation for us accelerated tremendously. I think what would have taken normally 2-3 years to invent, I think we could do so much of invention in just 1 year. So the couple of other innovations which you can speak of is that customers started talking about opening the office. We actually many places which opened up, retail shops. People used to hold a thermometer, right? A handheld thermometer. There was a time there was a shortage of thermometers and scanners. Measure temperature. How do you measure temperature contactlessly? And the contactless access control to the building became a sort of a reality. And still offices are not open, but people are talking about it. So we also put our thoughts to started making hardware also, which was not in the original agenda. I can just show you one of the devices we made was a a contactless smart sensor. So you can put it in the entrance to an office, and then this device can scan your ID card, check your body temperature, and if you're healthy, it will just open the door, automatically open the door and update everything. Pretty much is a complete, and it can be used in the office or a small building, anywhere. You have a mobile app that connects to this. It tells you which employee came, what time, is he sick, is he healthy or not. So we invented this device. We also invented a lot of other smart devices. Yes, offices, because contactless became the norm. How do you, so this is again an IoT device. We ventured into IoT hardware. It's actually truly made in India. It's completely designed and made in Mysore. It's a complete hardware. So we actually ventured into starting making hardware. So today we manufacture small scale IoT hardware. It was actually sort of never in the original plan, but since we had time and energy and resources to do that, we invented that. And the third thing we invented was, again, customers came to us and said, many of the small customers who were actually having servers in their offices, they could no longer maintain them because they had a lot of shortage of staff. Staff had moved remotely somewhere. Some of the servers went bad, and it was hard to procure the servers. Although they had something in the cloud, there were a lot of things in-house. So people were looking at a vendor who could support, provide sort of a cloud service like Amazon and in a cost-effective way. And since we had, all our suite of products which save energy, which saves energy and which can give better benefits to the customer. So many customers came to us and said, I can't run my data center. Can you host me? Can you provide a cloud-based service which leverage all your energy efficiency and give me the benefits? We started a new line of business, private cloud service. We create a private cloud, completely solar powered, 100% green, renewable energy, and use all our energy efficiency technology to provide a very cost-effective and reliable private cloud service to our customers.
Oh, fantastic! For usually, when you hear outside, most of them might say, COVID has been a big problem and so on. So, but the inventors and the people who are passionate about wanting to bring some change, and rather than treating COVID as a challenge, you treat it as an opportunity and create some new things, right? And innovation is in the name of the game. Well, attendance typically would have been for having a person coming or not. Now you've taken it to a new level. Not just about coming or not, is are they healthy or not also, along with their presence, and are they healthy or not is the extension that you created, and that too all contactless, and which is the new norm. So a series of these products, I'm sure, is going to stay for a long time, because COVID is not going to go away. It's going to be there, and we have to learn how to coexist, and we have to learn how to treat nature, else it knows how to treat us. So if we want to get treated better, we better reinvent and relook at the way that we are living, so that nature, Mother Nature, treats us well, right? So fantastic. You've used this opportunity very well, accelerated your innovation, and the impact that it is creating, right? An interesting question has already come from our audience, and they are asking that you've been a principal architect for Aadhaar project, which is a phenomenal initiative, very large initiative. They want to know, what are the 3 learnings that you had being associated in that project?
I think one of the big learning was that it's possible to create a massive digital infrastructure in the government space, provided we have the like-minded people come together. In this country, we do have talent and expertise to create massive digital infrastructure. We all come together, and like minds come together with the public-private participation, and of course the technocrats come together. We can create state-of-the-art technology in this country and use freeware, open source technology, and provide a benefit to the society at large. That's the first learning. Second was about environmental sustainability, saying that digital infrastructures, which were created elsewhere in the West, were expensive, which were actually causing huge impact on the environment. And as a country, we can create an alternative solution which is highly sustainable, environmental friendly. The third thing is that these kind of solutions can be replicated, right? I think we have I talked to when I talked to my friends, I talked about historically we used to look at, the physical infrastructure. There's a Taj Mahal, there's a Bakra Nangal Dam. This is the physical, we call jewels of the India, right? We used to call the physical infrastructure. Today, I would say we can create the next new set of jewels which are not physically visible, the digital infrastructure. So I would say Aadhaar is one. And what has inspired after Aadhaar, I think, but the UPI and the digital payments. I think we as a country, we do have a need for such creating large number of digital infrastructure which can do a common good for the society at large. And I think Aadhaar has given us the confidence and the capability with us to create more and more public utilities which can help the country at large. And we do have capability and the capacity to do that. It's just that we just need to apply our minds to create such things.
Yeah, fantastic learning, and it's a definitely a jewel that India has created, and it is opening up opportunities for more innovation and in different fields actually. So it's set a benchmark, right? And you have had a lot of learning out of that, and you also mentioned that proudly when you showcase the device that you've created, that this is made in Mysore. Um, Typically, when we talk about technology, Bengaluru is the IT capital of India and Silicon Valley of India. Um, and you worked in Bengaluru, and what makes it possible that from Mysore, a place from like Mysore, which is more known for literature, art, and so on. So now that you are showcasing such fantastic ones from Mysore as made in Mysore. So talk to us about that. What are the challenges which are there to invent and to really operate from a place like Mysore as against the big cities like Bengaluru, where it is a Silicon Valley of India?
Yeah, I think there are plus and minus operating from a small city. Once upon a time, what do we need to create invented? We need access to information. And we do have today with the broadband and the connectivity fiber throughout the country. Any small town in India you go, you actually have, you can get very good connectivity. That's one of the biggest problems for the technology, right? And you have access to information. I think information is available everywhere, right? Everywhere information available. As long as you have network connectivity, you can get all the documentation and information and connect to anybody. Then, of course, there are people resource constraints. I think there are people talented everywhere. I think people. I think they've never had opportunity to create something. I think once you have the digital connectivity, you can be located anywhere. I think the only thing small towns lack is the access to the market, right? Of course, you don't need to produce at the same place where you market. It can be sold anywhere else. Right? Of course, the big consumption of the electronics gadgets happens in large metros only. So you have to have your sales distributions across metros. But production can be anywhere where it can be produced efficiently, cost efficiently. At the same time, you do get the talent, right? Talent is available, but people never had an opportunity, right, to do something. I think we are in a small town. I think if you look at some of the corporations like Zoho, there are talented people everywhere. And one of the things we always looked at as English as a barrier to a lot of people who learn their native language throughout their life. Suddenly you put them at the 10 plus 2 or degrees of English. I think as long as they can do their job, which countries like China, European countries have shown, Japan have shown, as long as people can do their job, only people who need to talk to the external world need to know English. Right? English is not necessary to do your job. I think English just learn that medium of conversation, right? The only people need to converse are the ones who talk to customers outside of India. I think I said we always have plenty of local talent available. I think I would see that not knowing English should not be a handicap as long as people are good at solving problems. Doesn't matter what language you speak and where you come from.
So I'm sure you very well understood the people who you needed. They needed to know the language of computers. and
Yeah.
the language of English who is required, you will engage them. But the members who are involved in developing these softwares, they need to know the other language, which is computer language. So fantastic. You recognize that and used it very well for your organization. And also, you did create a case, right, where when Japan introduced a new policy, sometimes how uh, government policies can trigger innovation and can trigger opportunity. So when they changed some rules, it became an opportunity that you saw for your suite of products, and you seized that very well. Do you want to share something about what is the kind of policy change and how your solution could impact and how it was put into use?
Yes. I think many years back, right, many of you must have been aware that there was a Fukushima disaster. The nuclear power plants failed in Japan. After that, most of the companies and public didn't want to restart any of those nuclear plants. So, Japan being a country which is highly nuclear powered, had to shut down large number of plants. So, one of the biggest challenges once the plants got shut down, Japan faced a shortage of peak load. Basically, when you look at the whole country, right, morning when people start work, early morning you turn on all the geysers. They start works, all the computers get turned on, offices get on. Again in the evening, right? There are different points of the day when the load on the electrical grid is very high. Okay, and then Japanese government introduced a policy, something called a peak shift, saying that you all have to cut your peak load by certain percentage points. So what does it mean for you, for an individual or a company? For example, they said for you are a laptop user, you cannot charge your laptop battery within certain time. The load is high at the time. We just encourage you to not to charge the laptop, but you can charge the laptop or UPS at certain different parts of it. So that they wanted to cut down the peak load because there's not enough capacity to generate power. So we did have this IPM Plus suite of software which we're already doing self energy. So we work with the OEMs, the hardware vendors there, and to integrate our IP into the hardware, saying that whenever we get to know that there's a peak load at that time, just disable charging of the laptops. And since we had IPM Plus running on the laptop, it can run in the battery for much longer time. And I think this innovation helped us to probably repackage our product to meet the needs of the country at that point of time.
Fantastic. This is also an example of how innovation can be repurposed. Your invention got repurposed to solve the new policy change which came in and the kind of power challenge which was created because of a disaster there. Beyond the borders, right? So which all countries has your solutions being impacting, and how is it impacting?
I think our products are sold through directly through website, through channel partners. As I see around, our desktop solution has actually reached almost about a large part of the globe. We never aware, right? We went through so many channels and we just started looking at even in a large number of countries in Europe, Americas, all the neighboring countries, in Asia Pac, a large number of countries actually start using. We almost have more than 12 countries. They look at the download, start looking at the map. We thought Japan was one of the first countries to use it, but so many people in other countries through their OEM channels started using our product. I do have to have more than 12 countries around the world. The end users are using our product without we coming to know directly. It's happened through a different channel, but I was quite pleasantly surprised that although we started pushing in Japan, there were so many other countries like Korea, Bangladesh, Germany, Switzerland, France, US, Canada, many countries had adopted. I was pleasantly surprised to see a large adoption in so many countries.
Oh, superb. This is an example of Make in India and Made in Mysore, and now touching almost every part of this world, for a good reason, to conserve energy, to bring in sustainability, and also love for your nature that you have. I'm sure you're feeling happy that a little bit of your solutions is helping to restore and bring sustainability, right? It should be a great feeling. So where did these aspiration come from before you became an entrepreneur? Um, how did your innovation journey look like in corporates, and which places have you worked, and what impact has it created? And talk to us about that part.
Yeah. I think I always, from school days, I used to participate in science exhibitions and do something, right? Actually, we made a small TV in the school. But actually, we had made a drone. I remember one of my friends told me, I almost forgotten. In the 80s in school, we had made a drone, actually, a small drone in late 80s. Took a toy motor from a toy car and made a small drone. Although it didn't have, at that time, we didn't have, batteries, right? So actually, I remember joining, meters and meters of wire, which can take from the home inside all the way to the outside of the house. And, we couldn't make the drone take off, but once, because we didn't have adequate power, but we had to actually make a transformer and an eliminator and take long wires, 50, 100 feet of wire, and make the drone work. And always been trying to do that within whatever little you have. Right? I don't think we had enough money to do anything. Whatever money we had, little bit broken tools that we had at home, we could always do that. Somewhere, I think, as I started joining the corporate world, I did work in IIT, where we invented an Ethernet bridge. Actually, it's probably today Ethernet switching is a norm, but we invented that in IT. But probably we could never commercialize it, because I don't think that commercialization mindset was then in the academics maybe 30 years back, right? We invented, made it open source, had a good option, we felt happy. Again, I worked in Hughes Network Systems. We invented a lot of networking products. But I probably didn't know about an IP patents. I think just somewhere when I joined HP, right? Then we invented something for the airline industry. We created some multi-protocol stack. Somewhere one of my managers who told me that, what you have done is something looks to be very unique. Why don't you file a patent? I didn't know what a patent was, so he connected me to one of the attorneys in Singapore. Then it took a long time, right? Just to understand what is a patent, how to file a patent, how to write a patent application. So started that learning, process, and it took a year for us to understand and figure out to file a patent application. It was long. I think today's world is too long, but that was what it was about 20. It was 96, 97. So then I realized that I and my colleagues who actually filed the patent. We were the first people to file patent for HP in India.
Wow.
And after that, I became sort of a de facto, because everybody started asking me in the company how to file a patent. And then, the attorney said, there's nobody here in India. Why don't you become the sort of a mentor to guide people in this region? So sort of became a mentor and a guide to a lot of people to help them file patents, and then review patents. Sometimes, down the line, there may be a patent coordinator. Actually, I had to review and approve patents for filing from a technology perspective. I had to decide on the company's behalf whether a particular patent was good enough to be filed, do a little bit of research, and that's how so from inventor to to coordinating innovations across the countries, right? And then when we started Began Labs, we had it in our DNA to we knew about the IP innovation patents. I think from day one we have been filing patents. Every time we invent, we do file patents in India and many countries around the world.
Yeah. So truly, the sense of innovation and also your passion for power consumption and power conservation and working with limited resources all started from your childhood. So it's a lot of lessons learned then, and now it's getting commercialized in a way, and also running a company, entrepreneurial venture. So what's your vision? What is that you want to create and leave something back to the society, even beyond you? What is that?
I think we want to look at creating innovations which coexist with nature. I think every time we make a product, we solve part of the problem, leave the remaining problem to be solved by somebody else. Just take an example, right? We are yes, electric cars are great today, they solve a problem, but we are not bothered about the e-waste which will get created. the batteries, and then we also look at renewable energy. Yes, we know that many of the solar panels will last for 15, 25 years. What are you going to do after that, right? So what is happening in the world today? We are just solving the part of the problem, and in a hurry to solve the problem. Yes, we solve the problem quickly. We solve only the part of the problem, and we don't solve the complete problem. So what I want to leave behind is, let's look at nature elements. I think we are very, very fast. We think we are very fast. We do innovation very fast. I don't think we are fast enough. We are dead slow because we don't solve the problem fully. Look at nature. Nature evolves slowly over time, but whatever it evolves and creates is completely, everything goes back to nature, right? Look at a plant and animal. Everything is recyclable. Everything goes back to nature without causing much impact. Every creature has a value. It adds value to the environment at large, society at large, and after it goes back to where it came from. I don't think we create things which go back to nature. Everything comes from the soil, right? And goes back to the soil. I don't think we are able to create as of today. I think we need to look at invention, invent the way nature does, creates slowly and steadily, but make sure everything goes back to nature where it came from.
Oh, fantastic. This was a great point that you brought out, Srini. One is that, the nature is the best teacher for innovation and for the way it has created examples of its own inventions. We need to definitely learn from nature as our teacher. Fantastic. And also, you brought out a fantastic point of how innovation in current times, that people look at just solving the problem and not necessarily having a holistic approach. So how do we develop that holistic approach? And there is a question from the audience which is popping up for us. Let me ask that. Sounds very appropriate at this point in time. What are the 3 tips that you could give, as you've been a serial inventor and somebody who's got so many patents and a nature lover, and you bring sustainability as one of the top objectives in the journey of innovation? So what are the 3 tips that you could give to us as aspiring inventors and the aspiring innovators?
I think the first thing I would like to tell is, take a holistic approach to innovation. What are how does it impact people, society at large, and the environment itself? Completely take a holistic view of everything before you create something, right? So that's one thing. Second thing I want to tell people is that, don't give up easily. Journey is hard and tough. You need to have perseverance, patience to solve the problem completely. Right? It's a long journey. You always look at one side of innovation, other side of innovation, commercializing it and success. It is a long and hard journey. Be prepared for the tough grind. It's not easy. You need to be well prepared. So I think don't give up easily. Nothing is going to happen in a week's time, days time, months time. It's going to take years and years to really succeed. And most of the innovations don't see the fruit of the day because people give up. And the people who succeed, the 1% or less, are people ones who don't give up, who have the patience and perseverance to fight it through the end, right, to see the light at the end of that.
Yeah. Thank you again for these wonderful points. One other question is coming in saying, well, innovation in the current time frames that we live, profits is on top of the list, especially when it comes to companies and when it comes to entrepreneurial ventures for its own sustainability. But you're not talking about profits as one of those top things. You're saying perseverance as the top thing. So where does profit come in, and what's the role of money in the journey of innovation?
I think of course, money is required in innovation. Nothing can happen without money, and we should be prudent in spending money, right? Don't simply burn, right? Burn just because somebody is there, because you have to be accountable, right? So as one of the part of as an inventor is you look at the cash flows. Because as I say, cash flow is like the oxygen for any business, right? You need to make sure you manage your cash flow, your money, and then whether your money or investors' money, treat it as your own, and handle it with care. Don't just burn money, right? I think there are many ways of doing things with little money, right? Sometimes lesser money makes you think deeper. If you had somebody asked, what if you had lot more money? Probably you would have wasted a lot more resources. We would have find many ways. You have to be frugal, find ways of doing better ways and means of doing things. Be frugal and make your money last as long as possible. Right? Somewhere you have to break positive, right? You have to be cash positive. You have to be profitable. Just like a sick person dies over time, unhealthy organization will die. So you have to be healthy as an individual, as an organization, right? So we have to care for the bottom line and the top line. You have to be profitable, right? You can't keep burning money just because somebody is pouring it, right? And as long as you're frugal and manage your expenses, one side is your innovation, second time you have to manage your cash flows and capital allocation, right? Where you put the money in, right? What's viable and don't burn just cash like it, right?
Oh, so true. It's resources. Every resource matter, and definitely money as a resource would also matter so much. And can't agree more with you. And it's important how you take it personally and treat it as yours, and spend very frugally, create an impact. And the best thing, again, you remind me of one of the important lessons that I learned is constraints actually kicks in creativity in a person. So when there is a constraint and there is a challenge, creativity kicks in, and that's where innovation becomes more impactful. So thanks for reminding that and bringing those points. It was a fantastic experience talking to you, learning, and thanks for your sharing. I enjoyed interacting with you, Srini, and best wishes for all your new ventures, new initiatives. And just as a last one, I would wish to ask, which is your latest innovation, and what inspired that, and how is it going to be impactful?
I think I just spoke about the latest innovation has been about creating a highly energy efficient private cloud, and which completely runs on the solar power. And I was pleasantly surprised that when we put the cloud infrastructure, we went live a couple of months back, and we made it so energy efficient. Actually, I do have surplus solar power today. Surplus solar power today, and it has beaten our own calculations in terms of the math, the cooling. We have done so much of, I would say, extreme optimization, such that I do have, as of today we speak, we are consuming only 15% of the power we generate in this building solar power. We are just have 85% extra surplus power today.
Oh, fantastic. They say eat your own dog food, and looks like in your innovation journey, you've done that, put it into use, all your inventions and in action, and also shown the savings and the power that it has been able to conserve, right? Fantastic. Just consuming 15% of what is getting produced is a fantastic thing. So, and there's a lot of opportunity now for you to use it more optimally and more meaningfully. Best wishes in this journey, and for your new innovation in the private cloud space. And again, let it create a positive impact throughout the world. Very needy at the times that we are in. Best wishes in your future journeys too. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Ravi.
Yes.